I'm Dr. Lee Lindquist, and I'm Chief of Geriatrics at Northwestern University in Chicago, Illinois. And today we'll be talking about tactics for negotiating with seniors. So here's two of my favorite people. These are my grandparents who I had to negotiate with in helping them get more help in their home and, changing driving and so forth. And in my geriatrics offices, I see a lot of patients and a lot of seniors and their families oftentimes negotiating on what sort of care setting they might need or what sort of help they might need in the home. And this is an ongoing negotiation. So I went to school at Northwestern Medical School, but I also have an MBA from Kellogg, which is where I learned how to negotiate. So today we're going to talk about the tactics that you can use to negotiate with seniors, and also talk about how we can improve your conflict resolution skills so that you can win more, win easier, and feel better. So first tactic to talk about are anchors. And I'm not talking about cruise ship anchors. I'm talking about the opening offer. So your opening offer actually acts as an anchor. And the person with the most information usually opens. And so when you think about it, for instance, in day-to-day life, this watch here is normally $200 retail, but it's on sale today for $50. And that's an anchor. When in actuality, this is a $20 watch. So you think of it as a lot more because it's been anchored. And usually the person with the most information, for instance, the person who's selling the watch, it should open. And the other fun thing, too, is that if you know what the other person's bottom line is, then you can open up with an offer just a little above. And so we talked about BATNAs in the 101 negotiations. But with seniors, I'll tell you, it's oftentimes easier and it works better to have the senior open. So what I'll say to the senior is, how do you think you've been doing at home? The senior will tell me, I've been doing really good. I've been, maybe not so good. Maybe I'm having problems, or, I'm really struggling. How do you think you've been driving? I'll ask. And the senior will say, I get really scared when I'm driving because there's a lot of fast cars moving around, or they'll say, I'm only driving at daytime. I'm not driving at night, only to familiar places because, I'm a little worried that I'm going to get lost or something's going to happen. How do you think your memory is doing? That's a question that I'll ask. And people will say, oh, it's doing really good. Or oftentimes, well, I'm having senior moments. And so you can kind of capitalize on that. Well, let's talk about your senior moments. What are happening to you? What's happening to you? What's causing you to be a little worried? What's working on there? So the big thing for caveats on anchoring is don't fall into the senior's anchors. So when the senior says, I'm doing absolutely fine at home, there's always a little bit of like, really, 100% fine? Because, I'm kind of concerned with some of the things going on. And then also, don't negotiate with yourself. When a senior says, well, I don't want that, what else do you have? And that's where you're negotiating with yourself. You're kind of like, okay, that's not going to work. Let me come up with another one. So it's kind of a one-sided negotiation. So those are two caveats with anchoring. Next thing I like to work off of is trust, a great tactic. So trust is your willingness to put yourself in the hands of another. And in a lot of our relationships, we do have a trust, whether it's a daughter or a son and a parent, or a granddaughter and a grandparent, or siblings. There's always this trust factor. So, I'm doing the best for you. I'm trying to help you. I've been through tough situations before. Trust me, this is for our best. We need to work on this together. I'm here to help you. And so what I'll usually do is I'll say people need to share information about your priorities, about your values. I know it's tough to leave your home. I don't want to leave my home. I've been living there for 40 years myself. I don't want to leave my home, so I can understand how it would be tough for you. And it kind of offsets this opponent feeling like I'm out to get you, and eliminating the fear because, we're in this together. I trust you, you trust me. Let's work on this together. And this is where you can kind of do the next tactic, which is where you determine their motivation. What makes this person tick? What is their personal motivation? What is their greatest love? What is their greatest need? Even capitalizing on relationships with family, friends, or yourself, would you want to hurt your granddaughter if she was riding in the car with you? I've used this tactic with people that may not be driving or should not be driving. And I say, if your granddaughter was with you in the car, would you want to be driving, having her in the car with you? She might get in an accident. She might get hurt. Well, no, absolutely not. I don't want to hurt anybody. I've also gotten in a response, well, my granddaughter doesn't have to drive with me in the car. She doesn't have to be in the car with me. I'll just drive by myself. My problems, my fault, my issues. Well, What if your, loved one was walking on the sidewalk? Or what if a small child was walking on the sidewalk? Would you feel comfortable driving? What if you hit them? That would be scary. Sometimes people are motivated by money. What happens if somebody scams you and takes your money? This is going to be something that you need to be worried about. So let's talk about this. Let's get some safeguards in. Let's figure out how to help you. Big thing that happens in these negotiations is reaction. So somebody will say something cruel. Last time you did this, you're terrible. This is the worst thing ever. And try to avoid reacting. Okay, I understand where you're coming from, and work on forward action. So acknowledge the past. Say, okay, that was in the past. Now we have to concentrate on moving forward. Let's talk about what we can do moving forward. Yes, that happened. Move forward. We're in this together, moving forward. And I love the spin factor. This is a great tactic. So keep returning to working together for the best outcome and spin. Spin is something that I think really is helpful in negotiating. Whenever somebody needs a helper in the home, I never ever use the term caregiver. Caregiver is such a loaded term. It means somebody needs to take care of you. It's a caretaker. It's a caregiver. Instead, I use the term personal assistant. Let me have them hire you a personal assistant. Let's hire a personal trainer who can help work you out. How about a new intern or an administrative assistant? Somebody to help you with the paperwork, help you with getting stuff together in your life, an organizer. These terms are so much nicer sounding and actually fit the same picture as what a caregiver does without using that loaded term of you need a caregiver. And then the other thing too is if a person can't drive anymore, let's hire a chauffeur. Let's hire a car driver for you, or I want to get you a car driver, a car service to take you places so you don't have to worry about driving. Or, you're having problems with doing meal prep or there's problems with meal prep issues. Let's hire a personal chef. Who would love to have a personal chef? And so these are ways you can kind of spin the terms so that it makes it sound less nasty, less, caregiver stuff. Other things to watch out for, though, is phony facts. So a lot of times I'll hear, my daughter, my son, they want my car, they want my house, they want my money, they've always liked it. My response is, I was raised, or you raised your daughter to, be nice and have good values. You raised me to be a good person. This is absolutely not the case. You can keep this, we can move this around. And also when family members are not in on the game plan. So many times you'll have done a beautiful negotiation and then there'll be one family member that'll say, oh, you don't need help. You're fine. So like I always tell people, prepare beforehand, talk to family members, get everybody on the same boat, talk to everybody that you can, make sure everybody's in alignment so that it doesn't deteriorate future negotiations. Other things to watch out for, ambiguous answers. I think as teenagers, we've all heard this from our parents. We'll see. Let me look into it. No, it doesn't work when you're, a senior. We're not going to see. We're not going to look into it. Always make a plan, whether it's, okay, I want a decision in a month. I want a decision in 2 weeks. We're going to have this and this come in 3 weeks. This is kind of making a plan so there's forward movement. If somebody says, we'll see, that is so nebulous and ambiguous that nothing's going to happen. Another thing too is personal attacks. I too have gotten this, don't feel bad, where somebody says, the nastiest things to you because of something that they perceive is happening. And so personal attacks, personal threats do happen. The way I handle those is, I'm really disappointed in that reaction. I'm here to help you. We're in the same group. We're working forward, moving things. But I use the term that reaction right there, that reaction, primarily because instead of saying, I'm disappointed in you, it moves it away from being personal. And a lot of these personal attacks come out of fear and uncertainty. So it's not really the person being, sharp or anything. It's more about the uncertainty and the fear. So move it away from being personal. And then always, you hear these people, you hear cases where people refuse to negotiate. So there are times when negotiations struggle or they start to fail. And I sometimes will go back to the memory of the senior. In Negotiations 101, we talked about, testing the senior's memory or having the senior's memory tested beforehand. And sometimes this refusal to negotiate comes from the memory of the senior deteriorating. And that's where you kind of have to say, hey, is this refusal to negotiate because the person can't remember, can't logically think? And that might be the case. I've had some issues where people have come to me and said, mom is not able to drive anymore. She's not able to do her finances. She's having problems doing laundry. She's having problems doing all these things, but she refuses to accept help. And my answer is, what's her memory level? Because her memory might be severely impaired, so she's not able to understand the ramifications behind some of those decisions. So having the memory of a senior tested is usually a good precursor to any negotiations, or when a negotiation is falling apart. The other thing, too, is getting a family meeting. Let's have an intervention. Let's bring the family together, talk to each other about what can happen. Oftentimes, we'll have to have a home visit by Department on Aging to come in and see what's really going on. If people are refusing to negotiate, is there something in the household? And as a last resort, involving the guardianship courts. When these negotiations tend to fail, and the senior's getting, worse and worse, and there's worse problems happening, families sometimes do have to involve the guardianship courts. And that's where I say, no matter what happens, keep trying. Most negotiations don't happen within 15 minutes. You have to keep trying, have multiple people involved, keep working on it, because ultimately, we want the best for our seniors. And if that's helping them to get the services that they need so that they can safely age in place, that is the best for our seniors. So thank you very much. I hope this was informative. My name is Dr. Lee Lindquist, Chief of Geriatrics at Northwestern, and these are tactics for negotiating with seniors.